Well, we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, wow, what a turnout. Thank you guys so much for coming. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Why not? Welcome to our second ever annual volunteer town hall. We started this event last year just as an effort to have some more transparency and communication to our volunteer workforce. You guys are the reason that we can do anything here at SECOR. And so we just wanted to give you as much information as you want, and you can tell me when it's too much. A couple of that's it. Okay, great. A couple of just quick thank yous. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Lighthouse Church for letting us use this space. These guys lease space from us. They sublet. It's a way for us to kind of balance our budget a little bit, to cover some expenses, but they also allow us to use this space whenever we want it. So it's an incredible thing that they do. They helped us get all the technology and stuff like that set up. So thank you so much to Lighthouse. I also want to say thank you to my husband, who is our sound and video technician in the back. And maybe next to Craig, the chief heckler of the evening. I also want to say thank you to a couple board members who are not in the room because they're out there getting the hot dogs grilled for us. So thank you to them. And then I just want to introduce some folks. So if you've never met me before, my name is Bree Dilley. I'm the executive director here at SECOR. So I kind of oversee just about everything at the organization. But I also wanted to introduce our leadership team folks to you today. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself if you want to say your name, your title, and what that means.
Next slide, please. Hi, everybody. Lisa Long. I am the development director here.
Hi, everyone. Debbie Blair, program manager.
Jonathan Daniels. I am the operations manager.
Teresa Kane, and I am the business manager.
Great job explaining what that means. You'll have to ask them later. Yeah, other duties as assigned is the job. And then I also want to call attention to our other staff in the room. If you're a staff member here at SECOR, can you stand up really quick? Nancy. Nancy's one of our guest advocates, so she helps all of our guests as they check in, helps them get some of the resources. We also have Christy here. She's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, making sure that everything is running amazingly. She's also the one who coordinated all of the signups and all that sort of stuff, so huge props to her. And then I want to acknowledge we have a couple board members in the room as well. They're hanging out in the back corner. We have Melissa Allen. Melissa, wave your hand. Melissa is our board treasurer, so she makes sure that all the financials are in order and helps me understand what financials mean. And then we also have Sarah Val in the back. Sarah is a longtime board member. Her and her husband are doing the grilling for us today, so thank you. Sarah's also responsible for our new coffee station in the lobby, so thank you, Sarah. That's so awesome. All right, next slide. I like to start just about everything that we do, reviewing our mission statement. It's kind of hard to read, so I'll read it to you. Our mission is caring for people faced with suburban poverty, restoring hope and dignity, and guiding them toward a self-sufficient life. Everything that we do here at SECOR is through the lens of our mission statement. I always love to point out to folks that even though we're a food pantry, our mission statement says nothing about food, you might notice. Our mission is all about restoring hope and dignity and guiding to self-sufficiency. And the food is just one of the means in which we do that. So we just like to read that. We like to keep that front of mind. Every decision that we make is through that lens and for the best interests of the people that we serve. So if you were here last year, next slide, We talked about some strategic initiatives for 2024. I've been in the executive director role since we're almost at 2 years since September of 2023. And so last year was kind of our first pancake of this event, and we just kind of talked through what some of our priorities were. One of the big priorities at SECOR in this last year has been financial stability. The pandemic brought in a whole rush of funding, whether it was private donors who had expendable income because they weren't traveling, or government bailout programs or grants or what have you. We had, oh, hey, look, here's Beth. Beth is another one of our staff members. She oversees our mobile market program. So you can wave at Beth. Hey, Dawn, come on in, take a seat. You guys have to sit up front because those are the only seats left. So yes, so we got a lot of funding over the course of the pandemic. And in the last couple of years, that funding has pretty quickly dried up, which means that we had to make some really difficult decisions as an organization and figure out how we were going to kind of stabilize our finances. So that's been a really big initiative. I'll get a little bit more into the financials in just a second for those of you who are interested. The other big initiative that we had was 501c3 best practices. So if you're not a nonprofit nerd like myself, you may not know that there are best practices associated with nonprofits. A lot of it has to do with transparency, with your financials, your accounting practices, all of that sort of stuff. So that was something that we really wanted to spend a lot of time focusing on in the last year or two. And a lot of that was just because we saw so much growth in the last handful of years, but we just hadn't quite figured out how to get ourselves to the level of nonprofit that we were at. I can't remember what the statistic is, but there are tens of thousands of nonprofits in the state of Colorado, and it's something like less than 10% of them ever crack $1 million in their budget. So we at SECOR are one of on the larger side of nonprofits in our state. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were doing everything that we needed to do to be a strong nonprofit. One of the things that you have to do is have an audit every single year. We have an outside auditor come in, we open up the books, they go through everything and tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. So we just completed our second ever outside audit. It was clean, and that's amazing. Yes, thank you. A clean audit means, and all of this is public. You can read this all about this on our website if you want. If you really want to read an auditor's report, go for it. But having things like an audit, having your 990 filed, all of those things put you in good standing, which means that you're more likely to secure funding through things like grants. There's charity watchdog organizations that take a look at all of that stuff and give you a rating. So we just wanted to make sure that we were stepping into those best practices. And then the third thing is really living out our mission really well. One of the things that comes, I think, when you have to whittle down, when you're in kind of a financial hard spot, you really have to think about, who are we as an organization? You have to ask yourself some hard questions about what are the things that absolutely make SECOR SECOR, and what are the things that maybe are nice additions, but that need to be cut in a tough time. So we really wanted to focus on our mission. That's something that the board set many years ago. It's a mission that we feel like God has placed on this organization. And so we really wanted to do a good job of stepping into that and continually asking ourselves the question, are we doing the best that we can in the realm of restoring hope and dignity and guiding people towards self-sufficiency? And then the last bit is culture. I think one of the amazing things about SECOR is you guys. In the last couple of years, we've celebrated birthdays here, we've celebrated retirements. I mean, just so much life happens in this building beyond just what we do with our guests, but even within everyone in this room. I think we have a really strong culture of family. And I think that's proven by the fact that some of you all met here and now you vacation together. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were spending some time focusing on that. Next slide. All right. Oh, I just got to make sure that I hit everything I was supposed to talk about. Yeah, that seems good. Okay. This is our ongoing commitment as an organization, holistically, and also to each and every one of you. The first is that we want to be an organization that is mission-minded. Our mission is top priority. And like I said, that is the thing that's the lens that we look through anytime we make a decision. For example, one of the decisions that we made in this last year was allowing guests to shop for themselves. And that was inspired by asking that question of, are we doing the best that we can in restoring dignity? And I don't know about you, but when I go to the grocery store, I don't necessarily need somebody to go with me. And so we really started thinking about, does that feel as dignifying as it could feel? So that was one of the changes that we made that was really inspired by the mission. Another thing that we've been talking a lot about is, gosh, I just see all these people and I want to say hi. I'm resisting that urge. Another thing that you may have noticed in the last couple of years is that we've really kind of been coming down and saying, hey, we sort of used to have this culture here where if there was food on the shelf, it was open to any of our staff or volunteers. Feel free to take that home. And you may have noticed that we've really been changing that. And that's kind of a twofold thing. One is that financial picture of any food that goes out the door is food that we potentially have to purchase. And the need is insane right now, as you all know. We're serving 450 families a week. If we opened up our appointments, I'm sure we could get that number up to 600 if we had enough food on the shelves. And so we've been communicating a lot about like, hey, please don't take these things because we can't afford to replace them, and make sure that you're paying attention to that list that Jonathan puts out about what we do have excess of and what it's okay for y'all to take. The other reason that we've kind of shifted that mentality is because of our guests and the people that we serve. We don't want to be a place that takes the best stuff off of the truck before it ever gets to the shelves. That doesn't feel like a dignifying experience for the people that we serve. And then once again, culture. I mean, I think that's so huge. I've talked to a couple of volunteers and staff even who have said, this is my happy place. Like SECOR is my happy place. This is the place that I enjoy being. That's something that we want to make sure is true for every single person in this room, every single person who walks through the doors. We want this place to feel like radical welcome and like a place where you can just kind of take a load off. So we really want to make sure that that's always something that is front of mind for us. And then third is integrity and transparency. Like I said, that was a huge motivation for doing this. We got some feedback from volunteers that, outside of their weekly shift or whatever, they didn't really know a whole lot about what was going on in the organization at large. And for some people, that's totally fine. They're happy to just come and work their shift. But for many of you, you want to know what's happening at the organization holistically, All of you donate your time. Many of you donate your money as well. And so we really want to make sure that there's no question that's not okay to ask. And if you want to know about something that's going on here, that then we kind of peel back the veil and let you see it and have a conversation about it. And I also think that it's important for us as stewards of donations to lead with integrity and transparency and be open to scrutiny. And then the last commitment here is collaboration. We spent a lot of time with other organizations. Debbie and I in particular go and tour, I don't know how many food pantries we've been to, but a lot. We go around and just see what are other people doing? What are some ideas that we can that we can use here at SECOR. We have a number of agencies here in Douglas County: Parker Task Force, Help and Hope Center, MANA, probably some places that you may volunteer at. And we all get together once every couple of months and just talk about what's going on, what trends we're seeing, how we can better collaborate and best leverage the resource that we have. But collaboration happens internally too. We've gotten some of the best ideas this last year from you. I mean, when we redesigned the market, it was one of our volunteers who said, let's put canned goods at the front so that the heavy stuff is at the bottom of people's bags. You guys, this was a groundbreaking idea to me. I was like, yeah, that's an incredible idea. And so I just want to really have and emphasize kind of an open door policy where if you have an idea, if you have a thought, if you have a question, my door is always open to you. All of our doors are always open to you. We want to talk, and it doesn't matter if you're paid to be here or not. Doesn't matter where you fall on the food chain. If you have the best idea in the room, we definitely want to hear it, because that collaboration is what makes us be the best organization that we can be for the people that we serve. Next slide. Hey, Todd, another board member. All right. So I've alluded a bit to our financial picture. This is going to be impossible to read, but this is all being recorded so you can reference back to it later. This is also in our annual report, which is on our website, and we have some paper copies over there for you. So just a little bit about our financial picture. If you can see, maybe, in 2023, we were operating at about a 40% budget deficit, which is a lot. So that was something that we desperately needed to resolve. If you were here at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, you may have noticed that some programs were cut. There were some staff positions that were cut. We trimmed the budget. When I presented it to the board, I said, we already operate on razor thin margins. These ones are molecularly thin. But we did what we had to do for the long-term stability of the organization. And in 2024, we ended with a zero budget. Yay, this is amazing. Very exciting. 2025, we'll see how it goes. There's a lot happening, I'm sure, as you're aware. I feel like the news is being reported all the time about the federal cuts that are rolling down. There's still a lot of questions we don't have answers to. But one thing that we do know, for those of you who work or volunteer or give to our Food for Thought program, our relationship with Food Bank of the Rockies is very long-standing. They've given us a lot of food for that program, but they cut that food in half this last year. And the financial impact of that is about $200,000. So that is food that we will have to purchase to make up. So there are just a lot of question marks about what's going on. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. I'm not panicking. I think that there's a lot of hope. And one thing I know to be true about SECOR, that has always been true of SECOR, is that God has his hand over this organization. And we have an incredible community of supporters who rally around us. So we're nervous, but we're not freaking out. That's 2025 for you. And then in here, you can see kind of a breakdown of our budget and how our money is spent, where our income comes from. One thing I'll point out to you is this big bar here at the bottom of our income. That's all in-kind food. So that's all that food that comes in on the trucks, the food that we get for free from Food Bank of the Rockies. I cannot emphasize enough that we could not do even anywhere close to the work that we do without that line. That accounts for half of our annual budget. All right, next slide. So here are some impact numbers, some cool things. This is like such an awkward angle I'm at. Oh, I can see it there. All right, the first is we average, in 2024, we averaged about 100,000 pounds of donated food each month. 100,000 pounds. That's crazy. Currently, our free food market, our brick and mortar here is serving 450 families every single week. 450. There are very few organizations that could say that. That is an insane number of people. And I think also kind of speaks to where the need is at. You know, those of you who were around, who've been around for the last couple of years, we moved to an appointment scheduling system, which really kind of allowed for our guests to not be waiting in a long line at the beginning of the day and stuff like that. One thing that it did is it actually ended up allowing us to serve more people than we were serving before, which is incredible. But like I said before, we could easily open up our appointments, and I have no doubt there's enough need out there for 600, 700 families a week if we had the food to support it. In 2024, our mobile market, wave again, Beth. Hi. Our mobile market, for those of you who don't know what our mobile market is, our mobile market is one of our trucks that sits out there. It was custom built for us by Christian Brothers Automotive. And that truck takes the same kind of client choice model that we use here in the building, puts it on wheels, and it can go out into communities that need it. So especially those communities who can't get to us, senior living facilities, college campuses, things like that. In 2024, the mobile market went out 46 times across 10 different locations. And it served, I think it's like 6,000 people or something like that. Yeah, 6,900. Which is absolutely amazing. Our Food for Thought program, that backpack.
Yeah, there's one behind you, the one over here.
If you use this one, though, you have to play music. There she is.
Testing? Beautiful. Ooh, we were sweating that. Can you go back one slide real quick? Our Food for Thought program is that program that really focuses on food insecure kiddos, those kids who are really reliant on school meals. We give those kids a bag of food to cover the gap over the weekend. Right now, we are serving about 2,000 students every week. It's actually over 2,000. And then the last thing is our hours of volunteer service. For 2024, you volunteered 28,511 hours. That's crazy. I'm a millennial, so I asked ChatGPT to help me conceptualize 28,000 hours of volunteer service, and this is what it told me. A full-time job is approximately 2,000 hours per year. 28,000 hours is the equivalent of 14 years of full-time work donated without pay. That's huge. Thank you guys so much. You're the reason that all of this happens. Thank you. I also wanted to just kind of show you a little bit about some of the demographic trends. So right now, we're serving 2,800 households over about 20,000 visits in a given year. The average number of visits for a guest is 7. So across all the guests in our whole database, across their entire lifetime, they average 7 visits. So one thing that number tells us is that overwhelmingly, the folks that we serve are here for a short time. They're here for a few months or something like that, and then they're kind of on their way and getting on their feet. 92% of our guests are 200% federal poverty line or less. I'll tell you what that means. The federal poverty line, if you don't know, is a number that the federal government every year puts out. And it's a metric that they use to evaluate all sorts of supportive programs like SNAP and WIC and Medicaid and those kinds of things. And I think the federal poverty line for a family of 4 is like $23,000. Nope. $32,000, flip those numbers around, $32,000 for a family of 4 to be considered at or below the federal poverty line. Now, the government acknowledges that that's not a realistic number, so all supportive programs, almost, SNAP, WIC, you name it, are based on 200% of the federal poverty line. I'm trying to avoid my tangent on the federal poverty line. So 200% for a family of 4 would be $64,000 a year. 92% of our guests are at or below that line. So that's a really interesting number, kind of telling us where our income levels are for the folks that we serve. A new trend or something we're really keeping a close eye on right now is 12% of our guests are seniors, which is about 1,200 folks. Those of you who volunteer on Tuesdays, who are here for senior shopping hours, you're maybe thinking like, wow, we're really seeing an increase in seniors here at SECOR. It is true, the number is rising. I think that in Douglas County, the senior population is just exponentially increasing right now. The last couple of years, we've focused a lot on this migrant crisis that's kind of hit the Denver metro area. We've gotten these translation devices, gotten everything translated into different languages, stuff like that. That has kind of been our big sort of crisis that we're attempting to work through. At this point, we're starting to shift our focus and really start thinking about the aging population here in Douglas County. Like I said, the average number of visits for a guest is 7. I think that number on average is going to go up mainly because of our senior population. We have a lot of folks who are fixed income, they're stuck in a mortgage. It's more expensive for them to sell their house and downsize than it is for them to stay. So I think we're just going to kind of see that number go up and up. And senior shopping is one of the things that we've done in this last year or two that's kind of attempted to step into that space. And we're continuing to brainstorm some other ideas, specifically around things like transportation and things that would uniquely affect that population. And then we have 26 languages spoken here at SECOR. 26. There are some languages on that list I've never heard of before. If you're wondering, our top 4, English is first, Spanish is second, Russian is third, and Ukrainian is 4th. And then our 5th is kind of a 3-way tie between a few different Middle Eastern dialects. Oh, and then our family types, sorry, missed the graph. Our family types, I can't even read that, are kind of down the line here. 36% are 2-parent households, 15% are multi-generational. I think that's a number that we're going to keep seeing going up too. We're hearing more and more stories of grandparents who are either moving back in with their kids or are raising grandchildren. So that's what we mean when you see multi-generational house. 18% single adults, 11% 2 adults, no kids, and 20% of the people that we serve are single parents. All right, let's talk about some things that have happened in the last couple of years, some evolutions, if you will. One of the things that we've changed is that we've started opening opening the doors and allowing our guests to volunteer here at SECOR. We have a strong handful of guests who volunteer pretty regularly. In fact, now we have guests who are lead volunteers, which is incredible. That was inspired by the fact that we had so many guests coming and saying, I want to give back. I want to volunteer. I want to do something for this organization, but I can't give any money. And so we wanted to give that opportunity to let people volunteer. The other thing that I say all the time is that we want to keep blurring those lines. You know, my preference would be that nobody knows who's a guest and who isn't. I think that goes a long way in service to dignity. Oh, another thing, I was telling Debbie the story. I just feel like I have to share it. I was in the market a couple months ago, and this guy was like, it was right before we opened. He's right at the double doors, and he's unloading these little plant starts, these little propagations onto the shelf. And I turned to Pam, who's the lead that day, and I said, do you know who this guy is? She says, no. So I walk over and I introduce myself and I start chatting with him. He's a guest who takes home some of our less than desirable plants that we get from Trader Joe's, brings them back to life, propagates them, and then brings the starts back and puts them on the shelf. So he was unloading them, putting them on the shelf, and then he parked his car and got in line to go shopping. Really cool. I just think that's one example of a way that we hear our guests saying, like, I just want to do something, you know, I just want to give back. You guys have given so much to me. We have a senior who, like, once a month brings us $20 in an envelope just to say thank you, just to do something because she feels like God has given her that blessing and she wants to pass it along. So big fan of the guests as volunteers. The other is translation devices. We have these really cool ILAs that have some incredible technology. We also have those handheld devices that you may have used in the market, those Pocket Talks. One of the things that we noticed as we were trying to kind of work towards this language issue is that we have an increasing number of folks who are coming from kind of the Middle East area of the world. Overwhelmingly, the people who are coming into shop are women. And in that area of the world, a lot of those women didn't get to go to school past a certain age. So we realized that things like Google Translate can translate into that language, but it doesn't have an auditory component. It only translates into text. And if you're not literate in your own language, then me putting it in your own language doesn't really do a whole lot for you. So that kind of began the hunt for us of very specific translation devices that had an auditory component for some of those languages. We got a recommendation from our partners at Cherry Creek Schools, and then we got a grant to buy them, which was really incredible. So that's amazing, really cool technology. Another evolution of this last year that you may or may not know about is we started a guest advisory board. So this is a crew of guests who get together once a quarter, and we just kind of talk through ideas. We want to get their feedback. You know, you as a guest, what does it feel like when you walk in the door? When you're going through the market, are there things that you're like, oh, I think this could be done better? We really want to have that direct line. But we also know that the guests who are walking in this building have some incredible strengths. I mean, they're coming from all different fields, all different expertise. It is amazing. The very first guest advisory board meeting, Debbie and I left going like, holy smokes. This is a high caliber group of people. This is really incredible. So we're really excited about that. It's still pretty new. Like I said, it's just happened within the last couple of years. But an awesome, awesome team. And we're excited to see how that will continue to grow and evolve. Another evolution in the last couple of years has been tech classes. If you didn't know this, for a long time, SECOR has offered laptops. We have an amazing volunteer, Jim, who can refurbish laptops, and he kind of does it in his own time. And we've been able to get those out to guests. But with a rise in our senior population and non-English speakers, stuff like that, we started realizing that there's a pretty big digital literacy gap. And now we're requiring people to make appointments online. So there's a dog. So Debbie started kind of thinking through what would it look like to not just give somebody a laptop and say best of luck, but actually show folks how to use it. So you've done 2 rounds of classes so far, getting ready to start a 3rd. And we've had some amazing stories already come out of that. We have a gentleman who's working for United Airlines, schlepping bags into an airplane, hurting his back, working outside, and he just wanted a job that was indoors, that didn't require him to put so much on his back, but he didn't know how to use a computer. So he came to the class, he got his certificate when he completed it, and he attached that to a job application with United just inside, and he got it. And he sent a note saying like, I got a job, which is absolutely amazing. We have another couple who can now digitally communicate with their grandchildren who are on the other side of the world. I mean, just some really, really cool stuff. One of the things that I probably should have said at some point is for me as a leader and for us as a team, it's really important to be good stewards of resources. And one of the ways that we want to do that is to not just launch things because we think it's a good idea. You know, I could come up with a million different programs that we could do. But if there's already an organization out there doing that work in this area, I think a better use of our resources is to have a really strong, robust relationship with that organization so that we can kind of make referrals back and forth, give warm handoffs, that sort of a thing. So that's part of why Debbie and I go out and see so many different organizations. What that also does is allow us to see gaps. What are the things that aren't being done? And we can use that information to kind of start launching things. So that's part of where that digital literacy class came from, is knowing that it's a need and it's not being done anywhere in our area. So I think there's a lot more that's going to come out of that. I'm really excited for how it's going to evolve once we have some more manpower to do it, but super cool. We also started a brand new position here at SECOR, a social worker. This was a grant funded position. It was kind of like an amazing grant that we got sort of out of nowhere. But it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time because our mission statement, once again, hope, dignity. The 3rd pillar is self-sufficiency. So our goal is that when people come into SECOR, we don't want them here for much longer than 7 visits if we can prevent it, right? We want them to really get back on their feet, and having someone who is well educated in how to work with this population and navigate resources and stuff like that. She has been incredible. She's already seen like 60 something people or something like that. Okay, over 90 people have been served by our social worker already, which is amazing. People getting jobs, people getting connected to resources. So cool. It's something we've wanted to do for a long time, and we're really excited that we were able to do it this year. We also saw an evolution in our Christmas outreach program, which we're now going to call a Christmas Market. This was another one of those where kind of everything is on the table, and you're going, well, why do we do it that way? Is it just because we've always done it that way? And so our Christmas outreach program for many, many years has been people go at Christmas time, they buy a gift, they bring it back, it gets wrapped, and it gets sent out to this family. One problem, when families open it on Christmas morning, the parents are just as surprised at the gifts they gave their kids as the kids are. And that didn't really feel like it was true to the work that we do all year round. Our whole model is based on the ability to choose and have the dignity of choice. And so this year we took that model and turned that into our Christmas outreach program. So for those of you who served, you saw it. It was so cool. It was so fun. It was incredible. I highly encourage you to volunteer this year if you hadn't. But we set up a market style experience at Southeast Church in the lobby, and families came and they shopped for themselves. Just like they do in the market, they got points to spend and they could kind of figure out how they wanted to do it. Dutch Brothers Coffee was there with a coffee and hot chocolate bar for people. It was absolutely incredible. So really, really cool. And just one of those ways that we took a program, tweaked it a little bit just so that it kind of lived a little more fully into our mission. We also launched a book club. This is my shameless plug for book club. I was having many conversations with you guys, mostly in the break room. People would come up to me and ask a question about, I drove by this homeless camp and this guy had 60,000 broken bikes outside of his tent. Why is that? And I was like, well, there's actually a pretty well-researched explanation for hoarding within populations of poverty and stuff like that. So I just found myself recommending a lot of books to people. I'm a big reader. And so I thought, let's just launch a book club. So we meet once a month. It's pretty chill. But we pick different books that all kind of center around ideas and concepts that our guests are facing or are struggling with. We're in the middle of a book right now called Scarcity, which is about the neuroscience of poverty. It's incredibly fascinating. I would highly encourage you to come if you're interested, or just go read the book on your own. We also streamlined our check-in process. We started, we now have these SECOR cards. That streamlining has been huge. Before the appointment system and the check-in process, our guests were waiting an hour, 2 hours just to get in to SECOR, which as an organization that centers itself around dignity does not feel like a very dignifying experience. So we really wanted to focus a lot of effort on streamlining and getting people checked in as quickly as possible. That has been incredible. We even had some people cry because they'd never had a membership card before. And that was just a really cool experience for them. We also started leveraging TFAP all year long. If you've been here for the last couple of years, you know that we used to do TFAP. It was just like the first month or the first week of the month, and then it was over. Now we have TFAP available all year long. Part of that was because the guests that shopped the first week of the month got way more food than our other guests. And the other part is that it allowed us to kind of help bridge our budget gap. To leverage that program in a new way really allowed us to kind of stabilize some of our spending on all of the food that we purchase. And then self-shop, letting guests shop for themselves. We've already talked about that. And the last evolution of the last year has been a full-time volunteer coordinator. SECOR's had a part-time volunteer coordinator forever. And we really felt like it was time, it was past time to have someone in that position full time, to be available to you all, to be there to answer questions and stuff like that. So we just really wanted to have a position that more fully supported the volunteer workforce and managing those 28,000 hours. All right, what's coming up next? What do we got in the queue? Some people are like, things are always changing at SECOR. That's true. And I hope it always is that way, because we should always be striving to be better and grow as an organization. The first thing is kind of fun, signage. We got a grant that's allowing us to redo all the signage in the market. Any day now, it's going to happen. We were hoping, yeah, tomorrow afternoon, the first one. So there's going to be a wrap on the building that's going to go kind of around the corner. That's huge, because I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are like, oh, that's what that building is. I drive past it all the time. I had no idea, because we don't have a sign. So we're putting a sign out, which is really, really awesome. And then we're also all the signage in the market is going to be redone. So we're not going to have to like hand write limits and draw arrows and all of that sort of stuff. So those of you who are laughing know exactly what I'm talking about. And all of our signage will be in English, Spanish, and Russian, which is really incredible. We are also going to launch ESL classes this year. So there's a crew that's already starting to work on this, but we have a lot of non-native English speakers here at SECOR. We have a good handful of people who are new to this country, or people who've been here for a long time, but they only live in like a Spanish-speaking community, and they don't really have a lot of options to learn English. So we wanted to start giving some folks options. Once again, we're not seeing this done at a lot of other organizations. It's a big need. So it's something that we wanted to step into. So really excited for that. More to come. The next thing is a craft fair. This is going to be hopefully in October, but this will be entirely done by our guests. So every single vendor at the craft fair will be a guest of SECOR. We have so many guests who they crochet, they do woodworking, they have all of these different things. But if you ever done a craft fair before, you usually have to pay just to be a vendor there. So we wanted to give an opportunity to our guests to just be a vendor for free. They get to make their own money. It's literally just for them. It'll be an amazing community event right in this building. We're really excited. There's a whole planning committee of like 30 people, guests, volunteers, staff, random people from the community. Yeah, a lot of excitement building about it. We're really excited about it. And we've had like 30 something guests express interest in wanting to be a vendor at the craft fair. So we'll definitely let you know as that gets a little bit closer, but really, really excited once again to keep kind of blurring those lines. We're also gonna have a merch store. So if you've ever wanted something that says SECOR on it, that option will be available to you very, very soon. In the next couple of weeks, probably. So there'll be a few different pieces. It'll be open for just kind of a short amount of time. But if you want a SECOR hat or t-shirt or something like that, we wanted to give that opportunity. And then Build a Bag is a new evolution that's launching this week. So if you have ever handed a guest a courtesy box before, this applies to you, guests who come in who don't have an appointment or they live out of our area or something like that. We always want to make sure that nobody leaves without food. And so for a long time, we've done these kind of pre-built boxes that we call courtesy boxes that we give to those people. But we started going, well, we're back to that no choice thing. And we've gotten feedback from people who have gotten courtesy boxes that there's items in there they don't really want or aren't eating. And a lot of the food here at SECOR, especially the shelf-stable food, we purchase, we buy that food. So we really don't want any food going to waste, especially not food that we're explicitly paying for. So Debbie set up a cool little shelf kind of to the side where Christina's office is, if you know where our social worker's office is. And people will be able to kind of choose 10 different items and build their own bag. So it's just kind of adding a little bit of choice into that experience. And then we are also, don't be mad. We are also transitioning our donor and volunteer database. So if you've used Better Impact, there's going to be a new one. And it's not just to make everybody learn a new technology and download a new app or anything like that. We're moving both our volunteer and our database because now they can communicate with one another. Now they're kind of synced up. There's just a lot of like features and functionality that our current databases are lacking that will solve this problem. So there will be more information about that as the time comes. No one panic. You'll still be able to sign in on the sign-in sheet, but there is a change coming. And if you're a donor, it's actually even more exciting. There will be some functionality to be able to sign into your donor account. You can change your monthly gift, that sort of stuff. And then lastly, we just launched a prayer team. So if you haven't heard of this, we have a group of people who come together and just pray digitally. We have a box in the lobby for people to write their prayer requests. So it doesn't matter if you're a guest, volunteer, staff, some person walking in off the street, you can submit a prayer request to that box. Christy sends an email out to the prayer team and we all pray for that person together. So really, really cool. They can also give their phone number on the prayer request. So if they want someone from their prayer team to call them and pray with them, that's an option available to them. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be on that prayer team, if you want to be on that email list, go ahead and talk to Christy and she'll get you set up. She sends it out once a week. All right. I'm done talking, sorry. Thank you guys. Thank you. We're gonna open it up for questions here in a minute, but I can't put too fine a point on this. Nothing that happens at SECOR is possible without you. Sincerely. 14 years of full-time service happened in the last year because of you all. 450 families go home with food every single week because of you. That is huge. I hope that you can just receive that and know what that means and what kind of an impact you're having. One of our goals this year is to do a better job of sharing stories. You know, like that guest I was telling you about with the plant propagations. We all kind of hear stories as we go about, you included, and we want to do a better job of just sharing that as a community and celebrating together, because there's amazing things that happen in this building every single day. And my commitment to you is that we're going to do a better job sharing those with you. And I hope that you will do your part in sharing those back with us, because we just want to be able to come together as a community and celebrate. But all that to say, thank you so much for your work. You are the most incredible. I love you all so much. Now we're going to open it up for questions. If you're on Zoom, you can submit a question to John. If you're in the room, you can raise your hand and I'll pass it on to somebody else to answer. Yeah, Chris.
Mentioned some large numbers of people that we help here, huge numbers. Do we expect or foresee those numbers explode with what's going on down in Washington?
Anybody? You want to take it? Will you repeat the question?
So Chris just asked if we anticipate our numbers exploding because of what's happening in our political landscape right now. The answer is the need is growing. But the other side of that is we have a limited amount of resources and a limited amount of appointments. So as much as our hearts would want to serve those people, we have to maintain what we can do, and our appointments will remain at 450. You're welcome.
Though they did just expand. We went from 425 to 450 in the last couple of months here. So we're doing the best we can to rise to meet the occasion. Yeah, the answer is yes. Like I do think the need is going to continue to go up. There's a lot of people who have, lost their jobs. A lot of benefits have been cut, but I don't think it helps us to feel panic about that. I think we just, one day at a time, see how it goes. Yeah, Justin.
Yeah, so for people online, Justin just asked if donations from grocery stores, if we can anticipate those to remain strong, or if they're going to change at all. That's a really hard question to answer for the future, because there are a lot of things that happen on the grocery store side of things that are totally unrelated to what's going on in the country at any given point in time. So we have seen dips in donations in periods of time where we didn't expect that at all, and there's no news to explain it away. And then we've seen boons of donations when we kind of anticipate not having much come in. So that area, we are getting a lot of donations from grocery stores still, which the number that Bree showed you, where we're getting over 100,000 pounds every single month, that's a substantial amount. Yeah, every week kind of brings me on a roller coaster up and down. I get dizzy trying to figure it all out. So to answer the question more precisely, I don't anticipate that being a big drop. It's just a seasonal thing where you have ups and downs. After holidays, there's usually a big boom in donations as well. So grocery stores are trying to settle out their budgets and their numbers, but their game is really difficult to play to and to guess. So, which is our benefit, because the more that they order and can't sell, the more we get. So yeah, so I don't anticipate it being a big issue.
One thing I would add, Jonathan is working really hard to build additional relationships. He is trying to get into some of our Asian markets, And we're anxiously awaiting Whole Foods to open here in Parker, and we are in line for that as well.
When does food for that start up again?
Food for Thought is running this summer at a limited capacity. In the summer, we switched to a relationship with the Nutrition Services Department at both Cherry Creek and Aurora Public Schools. So we take limited number of bags to the head kitchens, and where they have free lunch locations, they have those bags available. The schools will go back to school in August. We give the schools a couple weeks to get head counts to us. Those packing sessions will start back up the last week of August, and deliveries to our partner schools will start the first week of September, right after Labor Day.
Which school districts are you helping out?
The school districts that Robert asked what school districts we're helping. We are currently serving 5 different school districts: Aurora Public, Cherry Creek, Douglas County, Elizabeth Schools, and Kiowa, Elbert County. Jamelyn.
That is a good question. So basically, so she was asking, how do people get services if we have a cutoff? Is that what you're asking, gentlemen? So basically, it's first come, first serve for all guests for appointments. I continue to try to educate our guests on when those appointments open up, so they're not looking at midnight, because that's when they think that they open up. And we have 11 returning guest appointments every 30 minutes and 1 new guest appointment every 30 minutes. I switched that about 6 months ago because I wanted to make sure 2 things. One, that we gave preference to our returning guests. And 2 is new guests require more time with our guest advocates, getting them through that initial process. And having 5 new guests in a 30-minute time block was just too overwhelming to the system. So this kind of helps with both of those issues. And so when guests can't get appointments, they could come in for courtesy boxes, build a bag. Sorry, it's going to take me a while to translate that in my mind. And we also talk about other resources that are available if they can't get into us. Some people work the days that we're open, so I often try to accommodate them, but if I'm not able to accommodate them because we're open when we're open, then I do find other resources available for them in their area. So appointments roll out Tuesdays through Fridays. Starting at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays, appointments open up for 15 days in advance. So some people will email me and say, Debbie, there's no appointments through 2026. Well, they only open up 15 days, and we do that purposefully so we don't have people scheduling out a month or 2 and then them realize that they have appointments or they have to work that day. So we really try to make it so they know their schedule when they're scheduling appointments. It doesn't always happen, but I think it happens more. So 9 o'clock appointments for Wednesday open at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, 15 days before. And then more appointments open up at 9:30, at 10 o'clock, 11 returning guest appointments open up, 1 new guest appointment throughout the day. And that happens on Wednesdays from 9 to 3:30. Thursdays, those are for a Friday, 2 weeks out. So that's 9 to 12:30. And for Saturdays, they open up on Friday. So I know you're like, what? We do have it written out on a sheet that I do share. I have shared frequently with guests. Sometimes it takes a couple of times or to have that visual for them to see. But if you want to, we have a documentation in the lobby if that helps. But they know that the day before, if I like shopping on Thursdays, then I'm always going to look the day before I come in on a Thursday. On that Wednesday, I'll look to book my next appointment. And we did that 15 days because if it was 14 days, we were having issues with people coming in and not having appointments when they're there for their appointment today and they're looking to build it out 2 weeks from now. It just wasn't working. So I had to go to that 15 days. So it works better for some than for others, but I'm doing the best I can.
What percent of the total food that comes in is purchased versus donated? And the second part of that is how that changed over the last couple of years?
So Dave asked, what percent of the food is purchased versus, in-kind donations, I would say, I mean, you saw on the graph, the in-kind donation, the in-kind donation bar, when we were talking about financials was significantly larger than any of our other, yeah, thanks. So on the bottom there is the in-kind donations. I would say 90% plus is in-kind. Yeah, in the market, right. Yeah, when we're talking about food for thought, that is all purchased food outside of what Food Bank of the Rockies supplies to us. So, but for our market in the doors here, it's significantly supported by in-kind donations. My goal is to spend as little as possible and still provide as much food as we do to our guests. Just so that we can keep doing this for years and years and years and years. You know, I try to keep it based on the limit or on the essential items that we need. So if I'm going to purchase items, it's going to be essentials. It's not going to be some of the just fun items. So the fun items fortunately come from our Targets and our King Supers and our Sprouts and Trader Joe's and all of our grocery partners. So yeah, a very large portion of our food in our market is in kind. So food for thought, yeah, again, that is, I purchase food for thought food every single week that we're doing food for thought. So outside of, well, during the summer times, fortunately, Food Bank of the Rockies does provide us the food to cover these 3 months of not delivering or not delivering to all of the schools. And mobile markets, I also purchase all of the food for. But the mobile markets are a fully funded event. So if you are a college, for example, Community College of Aurora, they put on mobile markets. And so they pay for the food that goes onto the truck. So we purchase it, but it is fully funded by the college. Yeah.
Is it possible to display the mission statement again? As you've gone through giving us a report, I'm impressed at how thoroughly you are accomplishing your mission statement. So, congratulations. But I have a small criticism. Before you became the executive director, I started giving New Testaments. And then those New Testaments were placed in a rack out near the exit from the market. And I haven't added it up, but it was somewhere between $200 and $300 a year of New Testaments were being taken by guests. And that seemed to me to fit in with the mission statement, because the most significant contribution, I think, that I or SECOR or anybody could make to someone's life is to put them into relationship with God, with Jesus. But this year, a little change in the way you have been handling those New Testaments. And I don't know that I bought any so far this year, because they're not being picked up from the reading room or the waiting area. And I would like to request that you reconsider putting those New Testaments back in a rack towards the exit door, where more of them will be going.
Yeah, so Paul's question was about our the New Testaments. Paul, how long have you been volunteering for us, Paul? 5 years?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Paul's one of our incredible volunteers who most of you may have never met before, because he makes thank you calls to all of our donors, which is really awesome. And I get feedback from donors all the time about Paul. But he also very generously purchases New Testaments for our guests in English and Spanish. And we've kind of moved them around the market a little bit. They were in the market, then we changed them to a different shelf, then we put them in the lobby with the rest of our books. And so he's requesting that they go back in the market. I'm totally open to that conversation. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other. We put them in the lobby with the rest of our books that our guests can take. But I don't know how that is going either. So yeah, we can definitely talk about it. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Huh. Thought I was gonna get grilled or something. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are seriously the most incredible human beings in the entire world. It is such a gift to work with you all. A quick plug, really quick. If you have family or people in your life that have never gotten to see SECOR, we're hosting an open house here on the 22nd of July. It's a Tuesday afternoon. We're going to be doing tours, kind of showing people around, walking through each of the programs that we have. The people who oversee those programs will be the people talking, so I won't be talking so much. You're welcome. But we have some flyers for that open house. We'd love for you to bring some friends to it. They're on that table. We also have some pens, some stickers. I think we have some flyers for book club and some annual reports too. Well, I'll be hanging around for questions, but let's eat. Cool? All right. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy.
Yes, I am very busy.
Every tear will be wiped away. Every sigh and say we will